Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your mind just wouldn't stop? Even when you're sitting still, it feels like there are 1,000 voices inside, each one pulling you in a different direction. Regret from yesterday, anxiety about tomorrow, a to-do list that never ends, expectations you didn't ask for, pressure you didn't sign up for. It's chaos. It's overwhelming. And yet, no one around you really sees it, do they? Because from the outside you look fine. You're functioning, smiling, showing up. But on the inside, you're exhausted. I know that feeling all too well. There was a time in my life when everything around me was moving fast. But my mind was racing even faster. You know that feeling, right? Deadlines, family responsibilities, that inner voice whispering you should be doing more, you're falling behind, you're not enough. At night, I'd lay in bed, my body aching for rest. But my mind was like a storm I couldn't shut off. Does that sound familiar to you? That's when I knew something had to change. Not someday. Not next month. Now. And you know what triggered it? Not therapy. Not a long vacation. Not some magical productivity app. It was a random YouTube video. Yep. Just like this one. One night, while doom scrolling my way through stress and frustration, I stumbled across a title. 10-minute guided meditation for anxiety. I clicked it. Not because I believed in it. Not because I was into meditation. But because I was desperate. And friends, that small, almost accidental decision changed my entire life. Now, I'm not here to tell you that 10 minutes will fix everything. This isn't some quick fix video. But I am here to tell you this. Sometimes, one small pause can unlock a door you didn't even know existed. Because that video, that voice guiding me through deep, slow breaths, that moment where I finally sat with myself instead of running from my thoughts, it became the first time in years I felt a sense of calm. Not the fake kind. Not the pretend I'm okay for social media kind. Real calm. The kind that starts in your chest. The kind that slows your breathing. The kind that whispers, "You're safe now. You're here. And that's enough." And I want to share that moment with you. Not because I have it all figured out, but because I know what it's like to carry chaos in your mind and pretend like everything's fine. So let's get real for a second. Let's pause. Take a deep breath in. Hold it. And let it go. That breath right there, that's your power. Your breath is your anchor. It's your reminder that in this one moment, this 1 second, you are alive. You are safe. You are not your thoughts. Let me tell you what changed for me after that first meditation. No, my bills didn't disappear. My problems didn't vanish. But something subtle, something vital started to shift. I stopped reacting to life and started responding to it. I created space. Space between the trigger and my reaction. Space between my thoughts and my identity. Space between the noise and the truth. And in that space, I found clarity. I started noticing how cruel my inner voice had become. How often I was telling myself, "You're behind," or "You're failing." And for the first time, I challenged that voice. I replaced judgment with curiosity, pressure with presence, self-doubt with self-compassion. And all of this started with sitting still for just a few minutes. You see, we live in a world addicted to noise. Scroll faster, hustle harder, achieve more. But what if the thing we're looking for isn't more? What if what we're actually craving is less? Less pressure, less noise, less pretending, more truth, more stillness, more peace. Meditation gave me that. And no, I'm not a monk. I don't live on a mountaintop. Sometimes I meditate for 10 minutes, sometimes it's just 2 deep breaths before I open my inbox. But here's the truth. The practice isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. And maybe that's exactly what your soul needs today. So let me ask you, when was the last time you sat with yourself not to fix, but just to listen? When was the last time you gave yourself permission to be still? You deserve that. Not someday. Not when life slows down. Now. In this moment. So, if your mind feels loud right now, if your thoughts are spinning, let this be your permission to pause. Let this video be your turning point like that video was for me. You don't have to change everything today. Just take one breath. Right here. Right now. Inhale. Exhale. Feel that. That's not just oxygen. That's you returning to yourself. And trust me, that's where the real transformation begins. Thank you for being here. If this spoke to something in you, share it with someone who might need it too. You never know, one quiet moment might change everything for them. Until next time, remember, the peace you've been searching for, it's not out there. It's been within you all along. Welcome to Napoleon Hill Secrets. Let's get real for a second. Have you ever looked calm on the outside, but deep down, you felt like your mind was caught in a storm? Like you're smiling, you're doing your job, showing up in conversations, but inside, it's chaos. You feel tired, irritated, anxious, and you don't even know why sometimes. You get snappy over the smallest things. You lose patience quickly. And then you feel guilty for feeling that way, which only makes the storm worse. Sound familiar? That was me not too long ago. From the outside, I seemed fine. I kept things together, paid the bills, hit deadlines, kept the smile, did everything I was supposed to do. But inside, I was drowning in noise. And I want to be honest with you, I didn't even realize how loud it had gotten in there until one day, I just broke down from the weight of it all. No, I wasn't in a crisis. I wasn't in a tragic life event. But I was slowly, quietly, emotionally burning out. And maybe you know exactly what that feels like. See, no one teaches us how to deal with the chaos inside. No one shows us what to do when our mind is racing, even while we sit still. Instead, society tells us to keep going, hustle harder, push through. That's adulting. But what if that's not how life was meant to feel? What if we've just normalized survival and forgotten what it means to truly live? Because back then, I wasn't really living. I was existing, reacting, getting through one day just to brace for the next. And I told myself the same lie that many of us believe. This is just how it is. This is what growing up feels like. But deep inside, there was a quieter voice, a gentler one, and it never stopped whispering. You deserve more than this. Can you hear that voice too? It's that quiet tug inside of you that shows up when you're alone. When the world goes quiet and all you're left with is your thoughts. That voice isn't asking for more money, or more status, or more likes. It's asking for peace, for space, for softness. But when you're stuck in mental overload, peace feels like a luxury, doesn't it? I used to think peace meant everything was perfect. No stress, no problems, no noise. But I've come to realize something deeper, and I want you to hear this. Peace is not the absence of noise. It's the presence of clarity in the middle of it. It's not about getting rid of the storm. It's about learning how to be still inside it. Let me say that again, because someone out there needs to hear it. It's not about getting rid of the storm. It's about learning how to be still inside it. And trust me, that kind of stillness doesn't come from outside. It doesn't come from vacations, or new jobs, or deleting social media. It starts within. It starts when you stop avoiding the chaos and start listening to what it's trying to teach you. Because most of us aren't just stressed, we're disconnected. From ourselves, from our breath, from the present moment. We're constantly rushing mentally somewhere else while our body is right here, silently begging for us to slow down. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you just sat with yourself? Not to fix anything, not to solve a problem, not to scroll your phone, but just to sit, to breathe, to be. If you're like most people, it's probably been a while. And I get it, silence can be scary, because when we finally sit still, all the things we've been pushing down start to rise up. Old regrets, new worries, unfinished conversations, hidden pain. But you know what else rises up in silence? Truth, clarity, peace. You see, the storm in your mind isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to wake you up, to show you what's been ignored for too long, to invite you into a deeper kind of living. And here's the truth I wish I had learned earlier. You don't need to wait for your life to fall apart to come home to yourself. You don't need a breakdown to choose stillness. You don't have to earn peace. You just have to make space for it. That's what I started doing. Little by little. Not perfectly. Not consistently at first. But I started choosing moments of pause. Just 5 minutes. Just one breath. Just being still. And that was the beginning of everything changing. The chaos didn't disappear, but I wasn't afraid of it anymore. Because I had something stronger than the noise. I had presence. And once you start to taste that inner stillness, even for just a moment, you'll begin to realize the life you've been chasing, the peace you've been seeking, it's been inside you all along. You just got distracted, busy, numb, disconnected. But you can come back anytime, right now, even. So let this moment be your invitation, not to escape your life, but to return to it, with more presence, more breath, more peace, because you deserve more than just surviving. You deserve to feel alive. You ever click on something not because you believe it'll change your life, but because you just need a break? That was me one random Tuesday night. I wasn't searching for enlightenment. I wasn't chasing transformation. I was just tired. Not the kind of tired a nap could fix. I'm talking about that quiet exhaustion, the kind that lives behind your eyes and deep in your soul. You know that feeling? Where everything feels just a little too loud. Where your body is begging for rest, but your mind won't let go. So there I was lying in bed, lights off, phone in hand, doom scrolling my way through another sleepless night. And then, almost by accident, I stumbled on it. A simple title, 10-minute guided meditation for anxiety. Now, I'll be honest with you, I almost skipped it. Meditation? Really? That wasn't my thing. I wasn't spiritual. I wasn't into mindfulness. But something about that night felt different. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was my own exhaustion. Or maybe deep down, I was just ready to try something. So I clicked play. And I didn't expect anything. Not a miracle. Not magic. Not even much relief. I just wanted a moment. Just 10 minutes where I didn't have to fight with my own thoughts. And then I heard it. A calm, grounded voice came through my headphones. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Hold. Now exhale slowly. Simple. Ordinary. But in that moment, it felt like someone had just thrown me a lifeline. I followed the voice. I breathed in. Held it. Breathed out. And for the first time in weeks, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't like a movie scene where everything suddenly makes sense. But my body, my shoulders dropped like they'd been holding up invisible weight. My jaw relaxed, I didn't even realize it had been clenched. My breath slowed, no longer shallow and rushed. And my mind, the racing thoughts, they didn't vanish, but they softened. It was like someone had turned the volume down. And in that quiet, something unexpected appeared. Peace. Not loud. Not overwhelming. Just present. A kind of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. That 10-minute video didn't change my life, at least, not immediately. But it opened a door. A door I didn't even know was there. A door that led back to myself. And maybe, just maybe, you're standing at that same doorway right now. Maybe this video, this very moment, is the quiet knock you've been waiting to hear. Because here's the truth. Sometimes the biggest shifts in our life don't come from giant moments. They come from quiet decisions. Small yeses. Tiny pivots. One breath. One click. One choice to pause. So let me ask you, when was the last time you truly paused? Not just put your phone down. Not just took a nap or zoned out in front of the TV. But truly, intentionally paused? To breathe. To listen. To feel what's actually going on inside. For me, that guided meditation video was more than background noise. It was a mirror. It showed me how disconnected I'd become. From my breath. From my body. From myself. And here's the wild part. The silence didn't scare me. It healed me. Because in that stillness, I remembered something I'd forgotten. I am not my thoughts. I am not my stress. I am not the chaos around me. I am the one witnessing it. And if I can witness it, I can work with it. Since that night, meditation has become a daily practice in my life. But not in the way you might think. I don't sit cross-legged for hours or chant mantras on a mountain. Sometimes it's just 3 minutes in my car before a meeting. Sometimes it's one deep breath while standing in line at the grocery store. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. And that's what I want you to take away today. Presence is powerful. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't require fancy apps or gurus. Just you, your breath, and your willingness to pause. So, if you're watching this right now, maybe you're where I was that night. Maybe your mind is too loud. Maybe your body is too tense. Maybe your soul is just asking for a little space to breathe. If that's true, let this be your moment. Right here, right now. Let's try it together. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Hold it. And slowly let it go. Brief pause. Do you feel that? That tiny shift? That's not a trick. That's not a placebo. That's you returning to yourself. And that is where healing begins. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to slow down. If this video gave you even one moment of calm, pass it on. Someone else might need this more than you know. And always remember, the doorway to peace isn't out there. It's right here inside you. And all it takes to open it is one breath. Welcome to Napoleon Hill Secrets. Let me tell you the moment everything started to shift for me. It wasn't a big revelation. It wasn't a grand breakthrough. It wasn't a quote in a book or a powerful speech. It was something much simpler. Something I'd been doing my whole life without ever realizing its power. It was my breath. That's it. Something so basic, so overlooked yet more powerful than I ever imagined. Have you ever noticed how fast your breath gets when you're anxious? Or how shallow it becomes when you're overwhelmed, like your chest can't expand all the way? It's one of the first things to change when stress shows up. And ironically, it's the first thing we forget to return to. But here's the truth. Breath is the anchor of the mind. It's the one thing we always have with us. We can't go back and change yesterday. We can't jump ahead and fix tomorrow. But we can breathe right now. Inhale. Exhale. That's presence. That's power. That's peace. I remember the first time I truly noticed my breath. It was during that first guided meditation. The voice said, "Just bring your attention to your breath." And I thought, how could something so small matter that much? But I gave it a try. I inhaled deeply, slowly, held it, then exhaled with intention. And something unexpected happened. My thoughts slowed down. My body softened. My mind didn't go silent, but it started to listen. It was like I had found this quiet corner inside myself that I didn't know existed. A place where everything was okay. Where nothing needed to be fixed or figured out. Where I could just be. And from that day on, breath became my reset button. When life felt like too much. When the world moved too fast. When my mind spiraled into what-ifs and not enoughs. I would come back to the breath. And here's what's wild. It doesn't take hours. It doesn't require a meditation cushion or incense or a special app. Sometimes it takes 5 seconds. 5 seconds of intentional breathing can shift your entire state of mind. Let's try it right now. Take a breath with me. Inhale deeply. Hold it. Exhale slowly. Feel that. That was you taking back control. Not of the world. Not of your circumstances. But of your inner world. You see, the breath is more than just air. It's rhythm. It's life. It's presence. When your mind is scattered, your breath brings it home. When your emotions are high, your breath calms the waves. When your body is tense, your breath invites release. Breath is not a backup plan. It's the first line of defense and the deepest source of power we have in every single moment. I've used it in traffic when anxiety kicked in meetings when my heart was racing, at night when thoughts kept me awake. It's not about eliminating chaos, it's about stabilizing yourself in the middle of it. It's not magic, it's biology. There's even science behind this. When you breathe deeply, especially with a longer exhale, it signals your parasympathetic nervous system. That's your body's natural rest and relax mode. Your heart rate slows. Your cortisol levels drop. Your brain becomes clearer, calmer, more focused. It's your built-in healing system hiding in plain sight. And you know what's beautiful? You don't have to earn it. You don't have to deserve it. You just have to remember it. Remember that you can pause. That you're allowed to take a breath even when the world is demanding a reaction. Because breath is not weakness. It's awareness. It's strength. It's wisdom. So the next time your thoughts feel like a runaway train, the next time your chest tightens and your to-do list screams louder than your intuition, pause. Just pause. And ask yourself, can I take one breath before I decide? One breath before I speak. One breath before I spiral. One breath before I react. Because sometimes, that one breath is the difference between chaos and clarity. And if all you take away from this video is this one truth, let it be this: you don't have to be in control of everything. You just need to stay connected to yourself. And your breath is how you do that. So breathe. Breathe deeply. Breathe intentionally. Breathe like your peace depends on it, because sometimes it does. Thank you for taking this breath with me. If this moment brought you even an ounce of calm, consider sharing it with someone who might be holding their breath right now, metaphorically or literally. Sometimes, the most powerful thing we can offer someone isn't advice or answers, it's just a reminder. You are here. You are breathing. You are enough. And that's everything. Welcome back to you. Welcome to Napoleon Hill Secrets. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment that you wish you could take back? Have you ever received a text or an email and instantly felt your chest tighten, your heart race, your thoughts spiral? Or maybe you've had those moments when someone says something critical and your mind goes into full defense mode, crafting the perfect comeback, or beating yourself up silently for hours. If you've been there, you're not alone. I used to live in that space, constantly reacting. Everything, and I mean everything, felt personal. One disagreement, I'd explode. One piece of bad news, it ruined my whole day. One harsh inner thought, I'd believe it without question. But then something unexpected happened. And it didn't come from reading another self-help book, or trying to control my emotions harder, or telling myself to just calm down. It came from meditation. Now, before you roll your eyes, hear me out. I'm not saying meditation made me perfect or emotionless. I still feel things deeply. I still get triggered sometimes. But something subtle and powerful shifted. It started with this realization. There's a gap, a tiny pause, a space between stimulus and response. And when I began meditating consistently, even just a few minutes a day, I started to notice that space. Before, everything was automatic. Someone says something I don't like, I react. Instantly, emotionally, often irrationally. But after a few weeks of mindful breathing and stillness, I began to feel it. That moment, that space, that precious few seconds where I got to choose. Let me give you an example. I remember receiving an email that, months earlier, would have completely wrecked my mood. It was critical. It was passive-aggressive. It hit all the right buttons. Old me would have fired off a response, defensive, emotional, probably regrettable. But this time, I stopped. I noticed the tightness in my chest. I noticed the voice in my head gearing up to defend itself. I noticed without judgment. And then I breathed. Just one breath. And in that pause, something opened. Clarity. I asked myself, what's really happening here? Is this about me? Or is this just someone else's projection? Do I want to react or do I want to respond? And that moment, that pause, it changed everything. Because here's what I've learned. Reacting is impulsive. Responding is intentional. Reacting is automatic, it's survival. Responding is conscious, it's growth. And the space between the two, that's where our power lives. It's where we reclaim control over our inner world. It's where we stop being puppets to our emotions and start becoming masters of our state. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. In fact, it takes practice. It takes slowing down long enough to even notice the gap. And that's what meditation trains us to do. It teaches awareness. It builds mental muscles we didn't know we had. Over time, I started noticing more than just the space. I started noticing patterns. How I'd react differently when I was tired. How certain words from certain people always triggered the same emotion. How 90% of my stress wasn't caused by what actually happened, but by how I interpreted it. Meditation helped me become a witness to my own mind. Not just the thinker, but the observer of thoughts. And in that role as the observer, I had power. I didn't have to believe every thought. I didn't have to respond to every emotion. I didn't have to act out of old programming. Let me ask you, what would change in your life if you had just 3 extra seconds before reacting? 3 seconds before snapping at your partner. 3 seconds before replying to that email. 3 seconds before letting fear hijack your next decision. Would your relationships be different? Would your stress levels drop? Would you trust yourself more? That's what happened to me. And no, I don't always get it right. I still mess up. I still overreact sometimes. But now I know how to come back to the breath. I know how to come back to myself. And in a world that's constantly pulling us out of presence, that ability, it's priceless. So, what's the takeaway? You don't need to be a monk. You don't need hours of silence or a retreat in the mountains. You just need to pause, to breathe, to remember that space exists. And every time you choose to respond instead of react, you're not just calming the chaos. You're becoming the creator of your own peace. That's the power of awareness. That's the magic of mindfulness. And that's what meditation gave me. If this message resonates with you, try it today. Just once. The next time you feel the urge to react, pause, breathe, choose your response, and then ask yourself, was that version of me worth showing up as? Because I promise you, the more you choose that pause, the more you'll realize the most powerful thing you can do is not to control everything, but to control how you show up in the face of it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing the pause. You're not alone in this journey. This is Napoleon Hill's Secrets. You know what surprised me the most? It wasn't how calm I felt after meditating. It wasn't even how my anxiety began to fade. What truly caught me off guard was realizing how unkind I had been to myself. Have you ever stopped and really listened to the voice in your own head? Not the one you use to talk to others, but the one that whispers, sometimes shouts when no one's around. The voice that says, "You're not good enough. You're too late. You're never going to get it right." Sound familiar? For most of my life, that voice ran unchecked. And the craziest part? I didn't even question it. I believed it. I thought it was me. But meditation changed that. Not overnight. Not with one magical breath. But little by little, day by day, I began to notice. I started hearing that voice more clearly, not because it got louder, but because the noise around it started to quiet down. And what I heard honestly broke my heart. The way I spoke to myself, I would never speak to someone I love like that. I called myself lazy when I was exhausted. I called myself a failure when I was simply learning. I shamed myself for not moving faster, doing more, being better. And I realized I had made my own mind an unsafe place to be. Let me ask you something. What kind of relationship would you have if someone criticized you every day? What if every time you tried something new, they told you, "You're not ready," or "You're not smart enough"? Eventually you'd stop trying, right? That's what was happening inside me. That's what happens to millions of people silently. But through meditation, through those quiet, present moments, I learned something powerful. You can't silence your inner voice, but you can retrain it. You can rewrite the script. And so, I began to rewrite mine. I started small. When I caught myself thinking, "You're not good enough," I paused. I asked, is that true? Or is that just fear pretending to be truth? When I missed a goal or made a mistake, instead of "You failed again," I started saying, "You're learning. You're growing. Keep going." From judgment, I moved toward understanding. From fear to compassion. From harshness to gentleness. And here's what's wild. That shift didn't just change how I felt. It changed how I showed up in life. I took more risks, not because I was fearless, but because I wasn't attacking myself when I fell. I became more confident, not because I thought I was perfect, but because I was finally on my own team. I became more peaceful, not because life got easier, but because I stopped making my mind harder than it had to be. And let's be clear, this isn't about toxic positivity. This isn't about standing in the mirror and lying to yourself with affirmations you don't believe. It's about speaking to yourself with truth and with love. You can say, "I made a mistake," and "I'm still worthy." You can say, "I have work to do," and "I'm doing my best." This is about rewriting the tone of your inner voice, so it supports you, not sabotages you. Because here's the truth. You hear your voice more than anyone else's. So make sure it's not your greatest enemy, but your greatest ally. You deserve to live in a mind that feels like home, not a battlefield. You deserve to feel safe even when you fall short, to feel encouraged even when you're still becoming. So let me ask you, if your best friend talked to you the way you talk to you, would you still be friends? And if the answer is no, isn't it time for a change? That change doesn't require perfection. It doesn't even require confidence. It just requires awareness and intention. One moment at a time. One thought at a time. One breath at a time. That's how we heal the relationship with ourselves. That's how we rewrite the voice within. So today, when the old voice shows up, and it will, don't fight it, just notice it. Pause, breathe, and gently, kindly, say something new, something true, something kinder. Because the most important conversation you'll have today is the one you have with you. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If this message resonated, share it with someone who might be struggling with their own inner critic. Let's create a world where we don't just speak kindly to others, but where we start by speaking kindly to ourselves. Because once we change the voice inside, everything outside starts to change too. This is Napoleon Hill's Secrets. And this is your reminder. You are not your harsh thoughts. You are the one who chooses which thoughts get to stay. Choose the ones that lift you. Choose the ones that lead you forward. And most of all, choose your voice, because it's the one that echoes for a lifetime. Now maybe you're watching this and thinking, okay, meditation sounds peaceful, but is there any real science behind it? If that's where your mind goes, I get it. You're logical. You like evidence. You want to know, does this actually work? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the science of stillness. Because here's what most people don't realize. Meditation isn't just some ancient ritual reserved for monks or gurus on mountaintops. It's a neurological tool, a proven practice that literally reshapes your brain and rewires your emotional life. That's not an opinion. That's not spiritual fluff. That's neuroscience. Let's start with one of the most powerful findings. Meditation reduces activity in the amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for fear, anxiety, and stress responses. Think of the amygdala like your brain's internal fire alarm. It goes off when you feel threatened. Problem is, in today's world, that alarm is almost always going off. Traffic, emails, deadlines, social pressure, financial stress. But studies from Harvard, Stanford, and other world-class institutions have shown that consistent meditation can shrink the size of the amygdala and quiet it down. That means your brain becomes less reactive, less panicked, less overwhelmed by the little things. And let's be honest, how often do the little things steal your peace? But that's not all. Meditation also strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for focus, self-awareness, emotional regulation, empathy, decision-making. This is the part of your brain that helps you slow down before reacting. That allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of emotionally. And here's where it gets exciting. The more you meditate, the stronger this area becomes. It's like going to the gym, but for your attention, your discipline, your emotional intelligence. And get this, meditation increases gray matter in the brain. Gray matter is associated with memory, learning, and emotional processing. In other words, by sitting in silence for just a few minutes a day, you're literally building a stronger, smarter, calmer mind. No magic, no hacks, just science and stillness. If there were a pill you could take once a day, that could reduce anxiety, improve focus, enhance empathy, and make your brain more resilient to stress, would you take it? Well, meditation is that pill. Except you don't have to swallow anything. You don't even have to leave your room. You just sit, breathe, and be. But here's the best part. All these changes, they're long-term. Research has shown that even 8 weeks of daily mindfulness practice can physically alter the structure of the brain. That means real, measurable change, not just in how you feel, but in how you function. Let that sink in. You have the power to rewire your brain from the inside out simply by choosing stillness. That's not philosophy. That's biology. And I know it sounds too simple, right? You're probably thinking, how can just breathing, just sitting still make that much of a difference? But maybe that's the point. We've been taught to chase more action, more hustle, more input. But what if real transformation isn't found in doing more, but in being less distracted, less reactive, less overwhelmed, less at war with our own minds? What if the stillness we resist is the medicine we actually need? I've seen it in my own life. Before I began meditating, I was constantly in overdrive. I'd wake up stressed. I'd fall asleep anxious. Even moments of rest felt tense. But now, I still have stress. Life still happens. But I have tools. I have awareness. I have that space in my mind to breathe, to observe, to choose. Meditation didn't erase my problems. It just changed the way I face them. So if you're watching this and thinking, I don't have time, I'm not good at sitting still, my mind's too busy for meditation, I want to tell you this. You don't need a quiet mind to begin. You just need a willing one. Even 1 minute of conscious breathing can begin the shift. Even one breath, done with full awareness, is a step toward healing. Let me leave you with this thought. Stillness is not a weakness. Stillness is strength under control. Stillness is the training ground of clarity. And in a world that glorifies noise, choosing silence might be the most rebellious and powerful thing you can do. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, anxious, or disconnected, don't reach for the next distraction. Reach for your breath. Sit in stillness. And trust the science that every quiet moment is reshaping your brain and rewiring your peace. Thank you for being here. If this message helped you see meditation in a new light, consider sharing it. Someone in your world might be just one moment of stillness away from breakthrough. This is Napoleon Hill's Secrets, where science meets soul, and where your transformation begins with a single breath. Let me clear something up right now. You don't need to meditate for an hour a day on top of a mountain to experience peace. You don't need candles. You don't need incense. And no, you don't need to empty your mind. Because if that were the requirement, most of us would have quit before we even started. You see, when people hear the word meditation, they often picture something extreme. Someone sitting cross-legged in perfect stillness, eyes closed, in a completely silent environment. And while that image can be beautiful, it's not the only way or even the most realistic way to meditate. Let me tell you how it looks in my real life. Sometimes it's just a quiet minutes in my car before a stressful meeting. Other times, it's a few slow breaths while doing the dishes. And often it's just sitting silently with a warm cup of coffee before the world wakes up. That's it. That's meditation. That's mindfulness. That's enough. Because here's what I've discovered. Meditation isn't about how long you sit. It's about how deeply you show up. It's not about checking off a task on your to-do list. It's about creating space in your day, even just a sliver, where you stop doing and start being. Now, I know life gets busy. We're all juggling something: work, kids, bills, deadlines, goals. And when the pressure's on, stillness feels like the last thing we have time for. But what if stillness isn't a luxury, but a necessity? What if just a few intentional moments of silence could reset your nervous system, sharpen your focus, and bring you back to center? Let me ask you, what if the best version of you isn't hiding in more productivity, but in more presence? What if your peace doesn't need more hours, just a few sacred seconds? For me, meditation became exactly that: not a chore, but a ritual, a personal ceremony, a moment of sacred pause. It wasn't about escaping life. It was about returning to it with more clarity, more compassion, more calm. And slowly, without even realizing it, meditation became my reset button. When my thoughts spiral, I reset. When I feel overwhelmed, I reset. When the world moves too fast and I feel like I'm losing touch with myself, I reset. Through breath, through stillness, through this simple, quiet ritual. And here's the magic. Because it's so small, I don't need motivation to do it. I don't need to hype myself up. I don't need to carve out an entire hour of my day. Because 2 minutes, I can find that. 1 breath, I always have that. Let me ask you this. What would shift in your life if, every morning, you gave yourself just 3 minutes of uninterrupted stillness? No phone, no scrolling, no rushing, just presence, just breath, just you. Could it help you make better decisions? Could it make you a little more patient, a little less reactive? Could it help you remember who you are beneath all the noise? See, the beautiful thing about meditation is that it doesn't demand perfection. It only asks for presence. Even when your mind wanders, even when the to-do list knocks, even when you don't feel peaceful, meditation says, "Come as you are. I'll meet you there." And when you show up day by day, it adds up, not in hours clocked, but in awareness gained, in peace reclaimed. So no, you don't need a retreat. You don't need fancy tools. You don't need to be good at it. You just need to start. Start small. Start messy. Start right where you are. Because you don't find peace by moving faster. You find it by making space for it. And if you do this, if you allow meditation to become a daily ritual, not a rigid rule, then one day, without even noticing it, you'll realize you're breathing differently. You're reacting less. You're listening more. You'll realize that your mornings feel softer. Your nights feel quieter. And your mind feels like a place you don't have to escape from anymore. So today, I'm not asking you to meditate perfectly. I'm not even asking for 10 minutes. I'm just asking for one thing. Pause. Right now. Right here. With me. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath in. Hold it. And exhale slowly. There it is. That's your reset. That's your ritual. And it's always available to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing presence, even if just for a few moments. If this message helped you pause, helped you breathe, helped you remember your inner stillness, consider sharing it. Because someone you know might be waiting for permission to slow down too. This is Napoleon Hill's Secrets. And this is your reminder. You don't need more time to find peace. You just need a few sacred moments to return to it. What really changed everything? It wasn't that I stopped thinking. It wasn't that I finally found peace somewhere out there. No, it was something much quieter than that. I stopped running. And I started listening. For so long, I thought peace was something I had to chase. Something just beyond the next goal, the next achievement, the next vacation. But I was wrong. Because the truth is, peace is not something you find. It's something you choose. And the more you choose it, the more it begins to choose you back. Maybe right now, your mind feels like a battlefield. Maybe your thoughts are loud, scattered, relentless. Maybe you're tired not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. If that's where you are, I want you to know. I see you. I've been there. And you're not broken. There is another way. And it doesn't begin with fixing everything. It doesn't begin with solving the chaos or silencing every thought. It begins with something smaller, something quieter, something you already have with you. It begins with the breath. So let's do this together. Right here. Right now. No pressure. No perfection. Just presence. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. And take one deep breath in with me. Hold. Now breathe out slowly. Feel that. That's not just air. That's you returning to yourself. See, the transformation doesn't always begin with massive action. Sometimes, it begins with awareness. With that one moment when you pause. Not to fix. Not to escape. But to simply be. To be with what's here. To be with yourself. And if a simple, guided meditation could help me begin to heal a mind full of noise, what if it could do the same for you? What if this was your beginning? I want to thank you deeply for being here today. Thank you for choosing to pause. Thank you for choosing to breathe. And more than anything, thank you for choosing yourself. Because that's what this journey is really about. Not becoming someone new, but coming back to who you've always been beneath the chaos, beneath the pressure, beneath the noise. So if this video touched something in you, if it gave you even one moment of stillness, one moment of clarity, please share it. Share it with a friend, a family member, someone you love who might be holding in more than they let on. Because sometimes, all it takes is one quiet moment to change everything. We'll meet again in the next video. Until then, keep breathing, keep growing, and keep coming home to yourself. Because the peace you've been searching for, it's never been out there. It's always been inside you, waiting, listening, ready.